Hello there. In this video we're going to show you how you can create a twin ring with a bezel setting. We're going to use a 10mm round gem in this instance. So if you start Fluid Designer up, first thing to do is to go to the well, actually I'll show you, if you click Group Library first of all, I'll show you where the gem settings bezels are. So it's we're going to use this one here, and we're going to use the 10mm round one. So we're basically going to append this bezel, and I'll append the gem as well. But we're not going to use the default ring that's available here. So if we just go back to File and New, we want to go to Rings, which is where we are. And we're going to use all UK ring sizes, and we're going to use the twin shank ring. Okay, so there's our default ring. Now if we just look at this, it's got a cross section of 1.5mm by 1.5mm, so that's there by there. Now I'm not going to change the size of the ring from the default size. I'll just leave it as it is. Obviously you could set it to a different UK size there, and I'm going to leave this cross section as the default cross section as well for the moment, but just take a note that it's 1.5 by 1.5. So if we just view that from the top, what we need to do now is to go to File and Append, and we go up through the menu system until we get to Groups. We're going to use this gem settings, this bezel setting, and we're going to use a round gem, and it's, as usual, it's the object that we're looking for. So we want the bezel ring itself. We don't want the default ring, but we are going to append the round gem. So I need bezel ring and the round gem objects, and I append those from the library. So that will bring them in to my screen like that. So there's the that's the actual bezel itself. Now if we look at the dimensions of that, it's 4mm tall, and it's got a 0.8 of a millimeter thickness, which is about the minimum size that you can do. If we just hide that for the moment, so it's the default ring, which is what we, sorry, the default ring. Where are we? It's the bezel that we want, the bezel ring, sorry, not the default ring, the bezel ring. If we just hide that, you can see where the gem is. Now clearly, if you're doing this with a gem that you've got to take into account the height of this. We're going to assume at the moment that that's okay. So we're not going to adjust the gem as such. We could of course adjust the height of the bezel by changing the bevel object. Now I didn't incorporate the other bevel cross sections. I would have to append those if I wanted to change this to 3mm or 2mm. So I could just go to File and Append. So the one we've got at the moment is 4mm by, let's see, it's 4mm by 0.8. So that's the one that we're using at the moment. That's the default one. We could append different sizes here, different heights, if we wanted to, but we don't. I'm not going to bother at this instant. So that's the bezel ring object there. Okay, so what do we need to do with this to get it to be 3D printable? Well, we obviously need to make some connection with the ring here, and the bezel ring. Now there's clearly a number of different ways that you could do this. We could move the end of the rings out until they just touch the bottom. We could delete part of it here and then adjust it, so again, so it just touches the side. But remember, we do need some support underneath to stop the gem itself from falling through. So the way I'm going to do it is I'm going to select the shaft and I'm going to expand the ends of the shaft. Okay, so if I just go to view and top view there, so if we go into edit mode with the shaft highlighted, at the moment all the control points are selected, so if I just deselect those, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to select, I'm going to use border select, I'm going to select the last 3 control points at that end, and border select the last 3 control points at that end. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the mean radius. So as I drag that, you'll see that the thickness of the shaft increases. I'm going to set it at, let's try it at 1.5 first of all and see what that looks like. So if we press the tab key, you can see what that's done is it's thickened up the ends of the shaft. It's not quite touching here yet, which is one thing that we do need, but let's also have a look at what happens if we go to view and top view. What happens if we hide this bezel ring? So if I just click on restrict viewport there, you can see I've got quite a bit of extra height here that I can play with as well. So instead of having these at 1.5, I'm going to increase the size of those. So with the ring selected still, I'll press the tab key. I've still got the control points highlighted at the ends there. So I'm going to change this mean radius. I'm going to increase it. Let's try increasing it to 1.75. And then if we go to view and top view, and if we press the tab key, I didn't switch on the screencast keys, did I? If I press the tab key to come out of edit mode, you see I've still got a bit of a gap there. And it's still not quite touching here. Okay, so let's tab key again. Let's try increasing the mean radius to 2 and tab key to come out of it. Okay, so we've got that now. We're still not touching here. I think okay, let's just have a look. If we just hide the bezel again and let's see where we are. Okay, now if we view that from the top, yeah, you can see we don't really want to be any higher than that because the gem is actually going to be resting on the ends of the shaft. Notice that the shaft's merged into one at the end. That's quite a useful feature in this instance. But what we haven't got is we haven't got the shaft touching the bezel ring, and we do need to do that if we're going to 3D print because these two objects have got to be joined together. So perhaps if I select another control point here and control point here and thicken those up to 2, that will help us out. So at the moment we've got those control points there, the 3 at each end of the twin shaft. So I'm going to press A to deselect, and I'm going to highlight those 2 control points at that end. And we've done the 3 at the end, and hold down the shift key and highlight those 2 control points. So we've got 4 control points highlighted, and I'm going to set their radius, well, I'll set it at 2 like the other one, and then we'll press the tab key and see what happens. There we are. So we've now got some intersection between the ring and the end of the shaft itself now. So we've got some overlap there. So that will actually work. Our gem can sit on the top of here, top of the shaft, and then once 3D printed, we'll put the gem in, and we can fold the bezel over so that the gem is fitted into place. Now you clearly can play around with these and fine-tune them further if you actually wanted to, but I think that looks reasonably okay. Okay, so that's a 10mm round gem which we're going to fit inside a bezel, and the bezel is going to be connected to this twin shaft. So before we export this as an OBJ file, what we should do is we don't want the gem, we don't want to be saving the gem, so we'll delete the gem, and we'll convert the bezel to a mesh and convert the shank to a mesh, and then if we just highlight the bezel first and then hold the shift key down and highlight the shank, we can join those two objects together. So we should have one ring object there now. So as is usual in Fluid Designer, if we go to File and Export, we can export that as a wavefront object to the desktop, and so it's a twin ring, and we've got a 10mm bezel setting in this case. So we can export that OBJ file to the desktop. That just needs to be run through Netfab Basic, which will make some few minor repairs to it, but that's essentially the file that we could send to be 3D printed. So yeah, that's the end of this video on using a bezel setting with a round gem. Thank you.